Hi, Susan. How are you? It's Thirsty Thursday. So we've got about 10 minutes here to go through the stories that you, me, the interwebs were all thirsty for this week. The hits, the misses, the highs, the lows, the things that made us roll our eyes, all the fun stuff. We're back to talking about it. We decided to skip last week because there was just so much going on around Canada Day, around the residential schools. We just thought we would take a pause and assess our thoughts. And we're happy to see that, a week later, they've announced our new Governor General, Mary Simon, who is in fact Inuit. And, personally, Susan, I think this is an amazing choice, but I am of that ilk that I'm kind of over the Governor General. I don't feel we need one. But when they chose Mary Simon, I'm like, this is what a Governor General should be. She's an Indigenous leader. She is someone who can help bring this country together. She's been an advocate for Inuit Indigenous rights, an ambassador. She knows how to advocate. And she said in her speech that this is like, yes, this is another step towards true reconciliation. And she, I think, is very proudly wearing this new title of Governor General. And I think it's exciting for all of us that they did choose her to represent this. For people who aren't from Canada, the Governor General, the way our governor works, is the representative of the Queen. Yes, the Queen is still our head of state technically. No real powers. They just sign bills and that sort of thing. But it's more what they represent. And that's why choosing an Indigenous person, the first one to be in this role at this time for us, I think is so important and was such a good decision.
I like that. Well said. Well said. As far as brands are concerned, we've been sort of watching. We looked on Canada Day to see if anyone had any specific, stances that they had taken. And I think in general, it was a little bit quiet and everyone's taking a pause, which is kind of what we say when it comes to any type of crisis communication in any case, which is take a pause, think about what you want to say. Do you have to say anything at all? Is it more an action-oriented thing that you just want to undertake on a personal level? So there's been a lot of quiet around here. And I myself have certainly struggled with what is it? Many of the things that we do are funny, intentionally funny and flippant and a little bit juvenile. And I'm constantly sort of going back to, is this inappropriate in tone at this time? So I think taking a pause is a widely accepted good idea.
Exactly. And I'm going to plug our 4 a.m. podcast right now that just came out today with Sheila Cummins. She's a founder of The Road to Seven and a business coach. We had her on to talk about, for entrepreneurs who are kind of struggling with, what do I say? I want to be supportive. I don't want to take up space. I shouldn't, but I still have to sell. I am an entrepreneur. That is my job. So we kind of spoke with our advice on how we handle crisis, Sheila's advice on how she coaches her students. It's a really good episode on kind of navigating those waters right now. It's awesome. So check that out if you haven't listened to it.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to talk about sports.
We're going to talk about
our favorite. Okay. You were pointing out about the Euro, the big soccer tournament going on in Europe, the Euro. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. So apparently it's been happening over the last little while. I think the finals are coming up. And what's been going on is that there are a number of spikes in COVID cases, specifically the beta variant, across a few places, which is raising questions on the return to mass scale events and whether we're rushing into it. And, the combination of beer and excitement and whatever isn't the most socially distant, whatever. And I know that in many parts of the UK, they've said you can take out masks. You're actually not required to wear masks anymore. So really the increase in COVID cases in some of these places. And I know you were talking about the Olympics as well.
Yeah. So I just saw yesterday that Japan, everyone's been wondering, how are these Olympics going to be pulled off? How are they going to do it? So just yesterday, Japan announced another state of emergency going till August 22nd. So that covers the whole time the games are going on. What they were going to do was, with the games, they were going to allow just local Japanese spectators in the stands in the Japanese Summer Olympics, which have already been postponed 1 year, by the way. They're starting, I think, the 23rd or whatever. But now they're saying maybe there will be no spectators in the stands. I haven't even seen much promotion for the Olympics, like when I have my news channels on, or I'm sure it's happening, but you just don't feel that same, build that you usually do. So I'm really curious to see how these Olympics are handled in just a few weeks. Yeah. And one thing, though, I wanted to talk to you about, I saw yesterday, too. Toronto, our mayor, John Tory, announced the campaign, We Are Ready Toronto, hashtag We're Ready Toronto, about helping businesses reopen, especially in our downtown core here. There's office tower after office tower that's been empty, basically. There's tons of businesses that rely on people being at work as well. So they've surveyed people. There was a KPMG survey that came out saying 80% are in favor of some type of hybrid work. Another survey saying 60-something% were like, I'm ready to put on something other than sweatpants. Like, I'm feeling the isolation. I'm ready to go back to some degree. Everybody here in Toronto is saying hybrid for the most part. And so yesterday, in partnership with the Toronto Regional Board of Trade, they've announced these play guides. Depending on your location, your size, if you're in an office tower, you can get a playbook specifically for you. And it's a guide on how to handle elevators, how to handle rotating people coming in and out on different days, your HVAC system kind of checklist and what you could be doing to make that a little bit better. So they've developed these tailored play guides, which I thought is pretty cool. And it's feeding into the vibe that most people are okay with going back a few days a week. But as always, I'm sure, there's going to be some issues and some people who just want everybody back and some people who don't want to come back at all. So what are you thinking, Susan?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I think hybrid is always a good place to start, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. I guess what I worry about is this sort of proximity bias that people have been talking about, which is that, if you are indeed that person who comes into the office and hangs around close to the boss, I mean, maybe the boss isn't even coming to work, who knows? But, I'm just talking about what that idea is there going to be this pressure on many people that you'll be seen as a more committed employee if you're in the office all the time? And that, I suppose, would be one of the things that I would worry about. That said, like making workplaces safe so people can choose and have, an option, I'm all over that.
Yeah. I think the hybrid seems to be the best way to go. And again, for the next year, it is going to be really I think the businesses that retain great talent are the ones that are going to listen to what their employees want. So I think it's great that the city announced this. Support away, City of Toronto. Good for us.
Nice.
Then we wanted to now move on to, you brought this to my attention, the space billionaires, our space billionaire cowboys.
Yes. Billionaires of the universe now have a new place to play, apparently. So there's been a lot in the news over the last little while about, the race to space between like Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Richard Branson of Virgin. And obviously Elon Musk has been on his own little thing for a while. And well, in theory, it's their money. If they want to spend billions to buy themselves a flight to space, they should be able to. That said, I think some of the positioning around it, certainly in the case of Bezos and Branson, has been around, this being like a moment for them to come into contact with who they truly are and their purpose on this earth and, their vulnerability and their next step and how they'll change the world. I feel like it's all terribly self-indulgent and in poor taste for this sort of moment in history where the social consciousness is a little bit higher, not to mention the number of people that on the sustainability front who have a serious issue with this. Like the way to save the world is not by taking that much energy up, right? So I think there's, to my mind, and maybe I could be wrong, overly judgy on this, but I'm like, why are we trying to position this as anything other than you playing with your billions, right? I mean, if as PR spin goes, this is not the best possible spin. So
I think you're right. I think it is, because I am all for the exploration of space. However, I totally agree with you. The way this is positioned does seem like just space cowboys and their egos, right? Like that's the way it is. And the other thing too, it is right of all times, like the planet seems to be on fire. We've got wildfires in BC, huge drought and water shortages in the States. That's just on our continent, right? Climate change is upon us. And so it does seem, the way it's talked about, I think seems a little tone deaf. And I totally agree with you that it does, how much of it is just their billionaire ego to be the first and the best at this. And I'm sure there is obviously, they collaborate with space agencies and they help and that. I just think it is the messaging that's off and making us feel kind of icky, instead of that Muppets show, Pigs in Space. This is the new remake of it. So that's what we'll call it. So thanks, Susan. I'll talk to you later.